So good afternoon. I'd like to bring you into the next step of this whole community currency world. So there were at least 3 speakers already mentioning them, having experience with them. I'd like to go to the next step because it's already here, it's in our lives, it's not something of the future, it's something you can do now. So that asked before, who of you is already connected or active in a community currency? I'd like to see hands again because there were some hands going up. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's already around 10% of this group, because I heard there are around 100 people here in this audience. So I think that this is an emerging thing. We have to grow this, and it's very easy to do that. To show you this graph, which is from 2005, I'm sorry, it's quite old. It's already doubled. The guess at the moment is that there are around 10,000 systems worldwide. We speak about commercial systems, like the one Annette was speaking about. We speak about time banks, which you will find everywhere in Europe, in the US, in Japan. We also speak about many, many, many other models. To give you some idea on how to work, I will just highlight 2 very important things that are happening right now at the moment in Europe close by, one in the Netherlands, one in the UK. Here you see already a lot of examples that you can find all over the world, from the commercial Weerbank to the Bartercard, which is a commercial system as well, to Nu Spaarpas, which focuses on environmental issues, and also, for example, Noppes, which is the Amsterdam LED system. We have around 50 of them in the Netherlands at the moment. So the first system I like to focus on is one which is on the social side and which started 3 days ago. It was opened by the Staatssecretaris in the Netherlands, so the Under-Minister from Social Affairs. It was opened in Utrecht in a large event. All the large insurance companies in the Netherlands are backing this. The largest bank of the Netherlands is backing this. The second largest pension fund in the Netherlands is backing this. Together, these organizations reach 3/4 of the full of the Netherlands, of all the households. So this is a huge thing. Just started. So how does it work? First, there is a nationwide umbrella thing called We Helpen. You can go there, you can go online, you can become very easily a member of this system. Very easy. Within these national umbrella organization, you can form your own communities. These communities can be formed by you, around your father, for example, who had a stroke, or around your brother who is disabled. You can also organize this on a slightly higher level, and we have 3 of these communities as a pilot at this moment. The first one is in Enschede, the Roesing, which is a center for people who had an accident or a stroke and who have to go back to society, and they are supported by the system to do that. The second example is in Den Helder, in the north of the Netherlands, where handicapped people with a mental handicap, are supported to become more active within society. And this is an interesting story in itself, because in the early days, that is say 10, 20 years ago, we put all the people with a mental handicap in a big institution, somewhere in the middle of the forest, somewhere far away from all normal people, so we would not have to interact with them. This is really changing. Nowadays, we build small houses in noble neighborhoods. We have these people living in small groups, 4 to 8 people. We think it's really great. The problem is that we, middle-class people, don't like to have them very close by. Because if you have too many of them, our house price might go down. And it's also not very nice to look at them all the time, is it? So the problem here is not the handicapped people that have to integrate, it's we, the middle-class people, that are not used to them and have to learn to cope with this as a normal thing, as something which is part of the society. So the project in Den Helder is focusing on getting these middle-class people in Julianadorp, one of the big neighborhoods in this small town, and get them active in taking responsibility for people with these mental handicaps. So I like soccer. I go there every week, and I play in the senior team, and I like it very, very much. The organization comes to me and asks me if I like to join. That means if I want to become of your helpen, and take from this moment on Johnny, who is my neighbor, by the way. I don't know him. I never saw him. If I see him, I avoid him. If I take him to the football club, together with me, each Saturday, bring him to his own team, where he plays soccer, then collect him after the game, go to him to the pub, have some drinks together, and then after a couple of hours, deliver him back in his house. I have to think about this. But yeah, okay, I did it. So we do this from now on, and we see this whole combination. And what I get from this, because I find it very difficult to do it, but what I get from it is credits. So I get credits from the organization if I take these type of social responsibilities. Just one example. Second example from another demonstration that we have in the city of Rotterdam under the name De Makkie, where the municipality and the housing association and the social organization within the Markassepleinbuurt are responsible for the system. So one example of the municipality, they have this beautiful big square, but it's a mess. It's one of the more difficult areas of the city of Amsterdam. People throw away things on the streets. There are dogs running around in the same place where children are playing. This is really problematic. So what the municipality did is asking people in that neighborhood to go together with their people on a Saturday morning and clean this square. Not to save money, but to make sure that there is more ownership of the people in that neighborhood for their own square. And they did. And this was a very successful campaign. So we find for the first time people who are Dutch, of course, they live also in that neighborhood, Turkish, Moroccan, and people from the Antilles, working together, cleaning the square, and from that moment, taking ownership for the square, basically correcting people that were less nice to this whole area. So what do you do with the credits? So you earn credits from all these organizations, social organizations, housing associations, whatever. You get all these credits, what do you do with it? Now the first thing is, like in a normal time bank, as you find in the US, you can spend them to your own neighbor. So I have a child, so I need childcare. You don't understand taxes, so you need somebody to do your tax reporting. Somebody else might need somebody to help up in the garden, for example, because you're not able to do that anymore. So these credits, they go around. Some people earn much more credits than they can use. We allow them to use them for something special. For example, to go to the cinema, or get a dinner in the local restaurant, or get a language course in the educational center. This type of stuff. So only 10% of this group is already engaged in community currencies. But now we have this national platform. If you think that it is interesting for you, or somebody in your community, or your mother, or your father, or your brother, to become active in the system, the only thing you have to go is to wehelpen.nl, subscribe, become active. You find many other tools on this platform. It's very easy to do that, and basically everybody is able to do it as you sit here. So from now on, we do not have any reason anymore to delay. I'd like to give you a fully different example. This is already mentioned by Tony. This is the Brixton Pound. It's really beautiful money. They won a lot of art prizes with the money that they made. These Brixton Pounds work slightly different than the time credit model I just described. You go to one of the local exchange points, for example, to the local bank. They have a credit union where you can go. You give, for example, £50, and you get back the equivalent in Brixton Pounds. Then you go to one of the shops or one of the pubs in the neighborhood, and you can spend them for your own food, for your own dinner, for your own products that you need. Not all companies are able to become part of this. Only local independent-owned shops are able to be part of this. That's number one. The second thing is that it's not only working with paper money, although this is very beautiful, it's also very unpractical. So we started with electronic payments. So you can pay with SMS, with text, or you can pay also with an app. Very, very easy. There is an advantage, an economical advantage for everybody doing that. Because if you are a consumer and you exchange your £100 sterling, you get 110 Brixton Pounds back. That's 10% more. That means that you have 10% extra purchasing power if you do this. Of course, if you go to the shop, we will help the shop, support the shop, stimulate the shop to spend it within its own chain. So, for example, the food shop, you try to get them buying the stuff somewhere else in Brixton, and then you help this wholesaler, for example, to buy the stuff in a farm. Now, farms are problematic in Brixton, there's not a lot of that happening, but if you cooperate slightly with the region, you have the option to integrate this fully. So that's the Brixton Pound. Question again, is it difficult to start something like this? And the answer again is no. This is of course a slightly different scheme, it's having a different policy goal, and basically if you want to start your own community currency, you have to think very carefully about what are you going to solve, who is the target group you like to work with, is it something social like to do, something environmental, is it focusing on innovation in businesses, is it commercial? or is the cultural sector, as an example. You have to organize a whole process where you're trying to get all these stakeholders involved, so to collectively and together you can co-create this currency. This is not very difficult. It takes, say, in between 3 months up to a year to do something like this. It's not very expensive. It's not for free, though. It's not very expensive because most of the software that you need is available, and there are several organizations that are able to support you in doing this. If you like to do something a little more fancy and pay with an app, of course, this brings up the costs. But again, it's doable, for example, for a municipality or for a local branch of a bank or for a local housing association. So it's not difficult to do that. And last thing, if you are building one of these currencies, you have to make sure that you do something which is legal. This is not always the case, I can tell you. You are not allowed to have a commercial system and not pay taxes, for example. You have to follow the rules. It's very simple. If you have a social system, you don't have to pay taxes, but you might have issues with social security. So you have to secure this as well. It's not very difficult, though, but you have to do this. If you have electronic currency and you pay with an electronic means of payment, you need a license too, or an exemption to this license. You have to organize that part. So in the world, we find more and more people, associations, and companies that are able to assist you in doing this. And the only reason not to start tomorrow, that's you. Nothing else. Thank you.